Okay, here we are inside, and this is the firewall for the gas tank, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're gonna have to take this wiring harness off up here and set it over here so we can take off the firewall. And here we go. I don't know what's hung up on. Just be patient, be patient. What was it? Oh man, it's a screw. Okay, well that's the firewall. There's our gas tank. Okay, how do we get those straps? Okay, see that right there? That's one of the lockdowns for the straps. There's the strap right there. If you come down here and look up in there, that's one of the nuts that holds the strap in. And the other one is right there. For that strap. Okay, we're gonna have to get busy. This is a regular 13 millimeter socket. It's going to take a deep socket for these bolts or nuts to get off. So that's what I'm using right up there. When you think about it, while this gas tank is in here still a little bit snug, I'm going to get those Phillips or those hose clamps off the filler pipe before the tank's loose. This is what I'm trying to tank right now. There, I got both of them off. It's about, I have to get that hose off. I'm not sure I'm going to do that, but just take some good old-fashioned elbow grease. I'm going to keep taking these straps off. Take you along for the ride. Penetrating oil on there. To keep working at it. When I was taking out the firewall to get to this gas tank, there was a screw that was giving me a problem. I don't know where that came from, but it's up in there somewhere. I'll have to get that out before I put it back in. But that's why it wouldn't come out very easy. Got those. Don't know if I showed you or not. I put some penetrating oil up here on those bolts. Try and make them a little easier. Now you can see what I'm working with. There. Goes out. Okay. How the heck am I gonna get that out? So underneath, I've already got them taken off. I just want to let you know there are two nipples for the fuel injection. One's a gas in, I think the other one's pressure in. Okay, those are them. So remove the gas tank. You gotta be careful when you take the gas tank out. That's gotta come out, and don't rip it off. So right now I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get that filler hose off. Wish me luck. So I sliced it and just pushed it back in there. I'll get the hose. Once I get the tank out, I can get that and figure out how I'm gonna put the new one on. Alright, so there. Now it's just time to lift this tank up and bring it on out. Let's see how that goes. Take that little hose off right there, just so it won't bump on the roof. Remember, Boy Scouts, always cut away from yourself. Just took that little hose off right there to see if I can get some more clearance. I'm gonna lift the tank up. Good. That worked. Looks like it did. Like it's coming. All right, come with me. There's the other wire, the sending unit. Just kind of disconnect that one. That goes to the dash. Let me get some needle nose. I get a new sending unit. So I think this gas tank's just going to come out. Let's see. There's what it looks like right now. here's what I'm being careful of. Right in there, there's two nipples that are on the bottom of the tank, and the gas tank leaks somewhere. I'm not sure where it is, but I have to find it. Let's see. Yeah. I had that strap stuck under there, and that strap stuck under there, and now I'll come. The 1978 VW gas tank. Let me get my stuff out of the way and we'll get her out of here. There you go. Okay, so this is the troubled area. When I was getting it out, you can see that's going to break off. I'm going to get a wire brush and go around here and see what it looks like. And see if I can salvage this or I have to get a new one. We'll see. I'm seeing is 2 holes. May be repairable. And then a little hole in there that's kind of corroded. You might be able to weld or bronze over that. I'm going to take it to a tank repair shop and see what they say. But I'm going to continue grinding down the rust that's on this tank. We'll clean it up, and we will prime it, and I'm going to treat the inside. This is looking in the fill hole. You can see there's some rust in there. There's the baffle plate. It's not so bad. In this hole, you can see there's a little rust down there on the bottom of the baffle plate. We'll try and get that out. Looks pretty good. You know, and the rest of it. I don't have a camera I can stick down there, but you're kind of seeing the whole side of the tank. It's looking pretty good, other than those 2 little holes. We got pinholes at the bottom. We'll get those fixed. There's a good view. There, he's got those little rust areas to take care of. And we'll go ahead and treat this bad boy. Okay. There, I dusted it off so it cleaned up a little bit better. Got rained on a little bit, but I'm going to scrub it and paint it on the outside to try and keep it from rusting, and prep it so when we put it back in, it'll be as good as new. And here we go. It's 1 quart of water. It's getting hot in my teapot. And you mix 5 teaspoons of this, the hot water, and put it in there. What I've got is, while that water's boiling, I'm going to change. I've taped up that pretty good. That, and those 2. And the holes. Okay. My water's boiling. I turn the light back on. Got a little leaking coming out there. Got to hold on to that. Still recording? Okay, clean it up just a little bit. So there's some spots right there we should concentrate on. Right there we should concentrate on. Down there, by the baffle we should concentrate on. Let's pull up this. Yeah, down there. pretty good. There. It's kind of hard to. All right, let's keep at it. Okay, here goes the second dose. Okay. There's a good look at that. Let's go back in there. Okay. Over there. Not so bad. Looking good. Okay. You concentrate right around there, don't we? Yes, we do. Okay, we're going to come back. I'll do it one more time. A little air bubble coming out of there. Try this again. This is getting kind of hard, but it's funny. I think with like after the last, there's what it looks like after the last rinse. Not so bad. Except that right there, there's some holes in the neck, but that's okay. There's the two holes that I'm going to be sealing with this steel stick, a JB Weld. If you can see in that hole, there's the baffle plate right behind the hole on both of these holes. You can see that down in the hole you can see metal. So you put enough of this into that hole, it will squeeze out and we'll leave some on top. I'm going to clean this a lot better. I'm going to wire brush this down to the bare metal, and but I'm going to do it after we finish some of these steps. Okay, so I might just go ahead and wire brush this now and get it down to bare metal. The first step I did, and I already kind of filmed it, was metal wash. It took me 4 times to put that in hot water and put it in the tank and slosh it around, and I dumped it out. There's the last time I sloshed around the metal wash. So we've done that step. That's the first step. Is if you look at my gas tank sealer instructions, the first thing is metal wash. Okay, clean it out. Now what we're doing is we're going to do the muriatic acid. And we're going to mix that together and clean out the tank. And then the next step, it says here, pour entire contents of fast etch bottle into the tank and slowly rotate to allow it to contact all surfaces until there is a uniform gray appearance. All right, so we'll probably fast etch it. And it says, while the tank interior is still wet from the fast etch, pour in 1 quart of acetone. Tank should be a uniform gray appearance. Carefully inspect all tank areas and make sure there's no rust remaining. Slosh acetone around on all internal surfaces, then pour out contents into a original container. Repeat step 8 again with fresh acetone. Dispose of used acetone in accordance with law. Okay, so we gotta do it twice. Then I'm gonna let the tank dry, and I'm gonna put this on there, right there, and plug these 2 holes. Then the last step is we use these tank sealer, pour that in, and we coat the inside of the whole tank with rubber, and here we go. A lot better. I shined it all up. I think I got it all ready for epoxy, this JB Weld. Okay, so now we're going to, let me turn the tank over. You can see the interior of it. It's all dry. That's what it looks like after we did the metal wash. Let me put it on wide angle. There. I get it in the focus here and you'll be able to see it a little bit better. There. Looks like we got some stuff in there. I'm going to rinse this tank out completely before we do the muriatic acid. Okay. Well, the tank is filling up all the way. I scrubbed the outside of it, so I clean it. We're going to empty it and then fill it up again. There it is after the rinse. Okay, down there you can see a little bit of rust. And there you can see a little bit of rust. Getting ready to put the muriatic acid in. They say put muriatic acid in it. Keep putting it in until the rust is gone. So we'll keep doing that. After its first muriatic acid rinse, let's take a look. Looking pretty clean in there. Just a little bit of rust. Looking pretty good. So we just did the muriatic acid step. Now it's time to do the fast etch, and let's do it right now. Fast etch in. What's that?
Low acetone.
How much you got? Huh?
A couple drops left.
Okay. The next set of instructions says, while the tank interior is still wet from the fast etch, pour in 1 quart of acetone. There we go. 1 quart of acetone. I'm going to pour it in. We're going to slosh it around. And you need a screwdriver to open up. I'm going to slosh it around. supposed to let the tank dry or not, but we're going to let it dry. And I'm going to tend to those holes with epoxy, or JB Weld, here in a minute once the tank is dry. What you do is you cut off a little bit of this, and you knead it in your fingers. So there, just cut off a little bit. It's like a two-part epoxy. You just knead it. So it's all mixed in a uniform color. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just put a bunch of it in that hole. And then I tape it. Same thing. Put a whole bunch in that hole. Hopefully you can see that. That's what it looks like. Okay, last step now. Pour Eastwood gas tank sealer into tank, temporary close fill neck, and coat entire inner surface by slowly rotating tank in all directions. When all surfaces have been completely coated, a generous excess should remain. Let tank stand for 8 to 10 minutes with the fill neck or sending unit open, then close openings and slowly rotate tank, allowing excess to recoat all surfaces. Let tank stand for an additional 8 to 10 minutes with fill neck sending unit open. However, this time on a different side. Repeat this until the tank has desired opaque white coating. Do not allow coating to drain to one area and dry. Drain off excess. Okay. So there's the tank. I'm going to put it on wide setting. I'm going to put in the sealer. It's all shaken up. I'm going to put in the sealer. Then I'm going to cover this up. We'll slosh it all around. Then we'll let it set for 8 to 10 minutes. And then we'll do it again on the other side. There it goes. Pretty much all of that. I'll let it rest upside down here. There's the second one. Okay. It is time to slosh. access down there at the bottom. I think we're getting a nice coat everywhere. Still dripping off the top. So let it set for 10 more minutes, they said. You can see how it's pooling down there at the bottom. Okay, looks like we're getting a good coat everywhere. Alright, we'll let it set and we'll go some more. Hold on 1 second. I did adjust.
Ooh,
It's puddling up down there.
high fumes, high fumes. I like it. Looks good.
Come on, autofocus. Okay, so here it is a few days after. Some of that sealant came out of the hole where the sender unit comes from, and you can see it bonds on there pretty good. Here's what it looks like inside. You can see that when I emptied out the remaining puddle of sealant, it left some runs and it hardened in place. That's pretty hard. This stuff is really smooth. It's got like a real smooth finish to it. It's been sitting inside for the past couple days, but the whole tank is coated. What I'm going to do now is, there is one of the vents. There's the other vent, and it's coated. Let me turn this over. Those are coated as well. I'm going to take some acetone and wash this down, that bare spot and all these bare spots. And I'm going to prime it and just paint over these areas so it doesn't rust anymore. Okay, let's get it done. There, we've got the tank primed. We'll let that sit for about an hour, and then we'll hit it with some black. And there we go. I just went ahead and painted the whole thing so it would look good, and I just wanted to make sure that once it goes back in there, it's painted so it won't rust. Okay, it's time for a gas leak test. I just put a couple hose clamps on some hose. I'm going to put some gas in it and leave it overnight, and we'll see if it leaks. That gasoline had a little bit of 2-cycle oil in it, but you can see it's got the drain holes submerged. I didn't put that much in because if it leaks, I don't want it to leak all over the floor. But there we go. No gas leak yet. We'll let that sit overnight. We'll check the floor. We'll see how things look. Till then. Okay, it's the next day. Let's see if we have a gas leak. I don't see anything on the floor. I smell gas. And how about over here where we fixed the leak? Nope, it's perfectly dry. Sweet. You can still see the gas in there. All right, rock and roll. And this is just kind of dirty. I'm going to wipe all this down and clean it up. I'm going to clean this really good and prime and paint it just so it doesn't rust anymore. There. Just gonna wipe everything down and clean it, make it look better. But primarily just whoever buys this bus is probably going to go through everything. They'll just feel reassured that this part has been primed and doesn't have to be dealt with. Okay, here's the before. Okay, here we are. This is the gas tank where the filler neck goes in. You can see it in there. There are 4 screws. And if you still have the gas tank in your bus, put something in there so the screws don't go in and you lose them forever. And then we're going to be taking off that pie pan right there and getting out that neck so we can replace the rubber filler neck. This comes off. There. We got a rubber gasket. And put the camera down. This one's looking pretty good, but we're going to replace it anyway. So we're going to take off this pie pan right here, and that's the gas neck. Let's go to a wide angle. Let's stick this up in there, and maybe you can see, maybe you can't, how it's all laid out. Alright, let's take this out. Alright. That is the fuel injection module that controls your fuel injection right there. And then right behind it is the gas pipe filler neck. Let's stick the camera up there as far as we can and see what it looks like up there. Okay. In case you can't see that, there it went down in there. And what I'm going to do is reach in here and see if I can pull it on out. Come on. There we go. And that is your gas filler tube, and let's mark it and replace it. Actually, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna replace it anyway. Here's the new one. Even though it says VW Bug 1974 to 1979, it's a VW bus. I checked that part number to make sure I got the right one, and I guess this is the big test, right? So there. It's about the right size. Yeah, that's about the right size. We'll get it to fit. Let's see. Matches up. You know what? This one's beefier, and it looks pretty good. I'm just going to clean this one off and put it back in there because it looks just almost like, it looks like somebody's really replaced it. Maybe they did. All right, I'm going to keep it. All right, there we go.
You're in. You're good. You're done. Help out?
Yeah, put the screws back in and
You had it in a wrong angle, so just make sure this thing's down and you're good. Yeah, screws. Yep, she's.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is get some new gas hose. And this is a diagram of the vapor system for the tank. You can see the tank right there. And these little cross members, these blue ones, are little bits of hose that connects these yellow lines to the tank. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to replace each one of those little hoses. This one's the little booger that's always leaking. These right here are easy to get to. They're above the engine. These two are easy to get to because they're right up on top of the tank. These green ones are a little more difficult because they're up there. And we're going to replace them right now, starting with that one right there. You see it? I'm just going to pull the camera down. Oh, let's get a little clip to it. So let's use a screwdriver. Bend that out a little bit. Pull this down. I'll just twist it out a little bit. There. Got it off. Still vibrating. Looks like a Bugs Bunny kind of thing. Just get that. Alright, that's going to take two hands. You see that right there? I'm going to get that off and then I'm going to replace it with new hose. I'll be right back. Okay, and there is a new piece of hose on there. Okay, we're going to do that for every one now. There's the first one. And there's the second one replaced. Okay, and then you go right here. There's three of them right there. And we're going to replace all three of those. So those three are now replaced. And that one on top of the canister. This one right here. Okay, and the most difficult one and most the one you gotta look out for the most often is that one. Those steel tubes don't align very well, and it typically causes a crack to form in the middle of the hose, like you see right there. I'll zoom in a little bit. See how that's cracked? If you smell gas, you always want to check that hose, right? So we're going to replace that one right now. Okay, so there you can see that they don't align very well. Okay, that just comes out through there. Meets right there. Got a little bit of play in it. There, can you see that? That one's very firm, doesn't wiggle. This one wiggles. So I'm gonna put a new hose in there and we'll get it all sealed up. There we go. Yeah, that's what it looks like after you get it all looking good. Okay. So this is the old filler hose, and I had to cut it to get it out, and that's what it looks like after, well, 1978 to 2020. That is 42 years. So this held up pretty well, but I thought I'd replace it. So I went and got some 2 1/4 inch Gates gas filler neck, and I'll cut it about that long to make sure it's on there. Some new hose clamps, and we'll get it all straightened away before we put the tank in. Okay, there you can see we have the new hose on there. And I got the new sending unit in here. And, what did I do with my knife? There it is. Alright, I forgot to record, but I had to use these channel locks to actually get this on there, like so. Spin it, tighten it up so the float operates this way and not against the tank here or hit the baffle, so it's over here. Okay, so there we have the 2 wires for the sending unit hooked up, and this one will be hooked up right there, and I'll get that in a second. Here's a mistake I made. I tightened that on the tank and that on the tank and forgot to get in there and hook up that fill tube. So I had to loosen it back up and reached in there and got the fill tube all lined up. Now I'm going to tighten these one up here and one down here, and I'll have that all tighten it in place, and then I can tighten this down and then hook up these, and I will have the tank replaced. All right, let's get to it. There we go. The gas tube is all hooked up. Now we're going to tighten these, and then we'll connect these breather tubes right there and right there. Okay, let's get. Okay, so there you can see that that's all tightened on both sides. This isn't going anywhere. And then here, I don't know what I'm gonna do. There we go. And then for this side, get the left one. Oh. Come here, buddy. There. Put that in. Takes two hands, hold on. There. And then there. And there we have a nice fit. I'll back up here and give you a great shot. There we go. Nice new tank in, and there's the fill cap. Looking good, wouldn't you say? Alright, let's hope it doesn't leak. And there we go. All good. So, there, can you see that? It's got this wire, the red and white, the black. There, so you can see all. The only one is this one that's not going to. This goes to the other side. Okay, so we gotta. That's all rusted on there. We gotta take that off. Okay. And there's one. Those. This. That. Okay. Let's go to wire brush. We'll clean all those off. Each one of those. Okay. Okay, this is the solenoid. That's what I broke off right there. And we're going to replace it with this. That's what we're going to replace it with. This will go on right. It'll go like just like that. Hear that? Okay, let's go ahead and hook her up. There we go. Let's get the ground all hooked up. And we're gonna go put that back on the engine. Here's the fuel system. That's the fuel pump. There's a hose that goes through here. It's got a sleeve on it right there. Comes out and that goes into the engine. We're going to replace this hose, and there's a little hose right there. There you can see a little bit better. It's got a broken hose clamp there and a hose clamp there. This is a filter, and I'm going to replace that. Okay, there's the filter, fuel pump, and the hose that goes in there. That's what it was connected to right there. There's a pipe clamp there and a pipe clamp that will come off. I'm going to replace that hose. Those are the two wires. And this goes to the top of the gas pump and bottom. And I have to do something about these rubber grommets. I have to fix those. That's where the fuel pump sits, and I'll get it fixed. Now we have a new gas hose right here. It goes all the way up there. And I re-put the wires together. New hose there. And if you can see back in there, there's a new hose right here. Let's see. How about up there? Can you see it there? Yeah. New hose clamp, new hose. And then you can see this gas line goes across here. Clamps in right there. There's a clamp there. And there's a clamp there for the gas line. It comes up and it's going to hook up to right there. I'm going to have a hose here in a second, and that will be my new gas supply line. Alright, now I'll finish that. Here you can see the new solenoid on the starter and this new gas line right here. That this is going to be connected right there. You can see it. It's going to be connected to the bottom of the tank. Alright, here we go. We put in the firewall, and I'll edit this out, but this makes for a much better picture. See that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Alright, so put in the firewall. Alright, all the screws went in.
Except for the two on the bottom.
That's right. And then we put the motor mounts in. Okay, there's one on the mustache bar, one side, and like, see what I can do? There's the other one. So we got that one all hooked up. Okay. And then, so that little red thing's blinking means it's recording. Here is the gas line that hooks up to the engine right there. And this comes out of the fuel pump. So there's the gas connection we made there. It's looking good. We hooked up the clutch cable, the clutch cable bracket, and then the reverse lights right here for the transmission. And there's the engine mount for the transmission. It's all hooked up. Did we hooked up the shifter yet? Can you see
Nope.
that? Oh, gotta hook up the shifter. And then over here, you can see the new solenoid. You see that, Josh?
Yeah.
Okay. This new solenoid's hooked up. And then the reason I did all this was because of a leaky gas tank. And so now there you can see through the wires. There's two hose clamps. And this goes over to the fuel pump. And this goes to the, I'm not even sure what that goes to.
The regulator. That's
Okay.
the return line for the fuel injection.
There you go. Return line for the fuel injection. There's a new hose up here. It connects to a steel line right there. You can barely see it. And then that feeds through to this. And that goes into the tank. Now we're going to fill it up with gas and see if it leaks. And it already holds gas, so I'm not worried about that.
Hey, Buck, do you want to show the lovely folks the impossible bolts?
The impossible bolts. Okay. I don't know if I can get up there. There's one of them right there. Okay.
Yeah, I can just barely see it
Okay.
right there above the starter.
There's one right here behind my hand. It's kind of hard to see. Maybe I can get it over here. There's one right there, and it's in the top of this transmission housing. And there's the other one right there. Those take some time to get out and get back in. Right, there you go.
Okay.
Can you see it? Now you can. Now I'll hit the small tree so you can see what it looks like once you have the light on. See how it highlights it a little bit better?
Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, yeah, so I guess, all right. I guess it would be a good time to discuss what these wires are specifically. This is the wire that charges the battery from the alternator. And this heavy one back here, the black one, is the wire that comes from the battery. This is a wire that feeds the ignition switch, which actually that power returns on this wire to trigger the solenoid. And this wire is actually supplying the dash with power for your gauges and everything up there.
You mean all the fuses up in the front?
Yeah, yep, the fuse box. So, you know, if your relay or your solenoid fails to trigger, you know, this is definitely one wire that you're going to want to look at, because this is the one that sends the 12-volt signal back to it to trigger it. And basically all the solenoid does is it connects this lug to this lug here and allows the power to travel into the starter motor. So, you know, that's kind of an overall view of how that works, what wires are what, and what their functionality is.
Sweet, thanks. And I'll put it in first. It might take a time or two.
Okay.
But I want people to be able to see that shifter going into that linkage. Did you get the screw for it yet?
Yeah, I pulled the screw out. I guess that's worth talking about too, because that tapered point on there, you know, it lines everything up and it forces it into position. So you really just have to make sure you're lining that threaded hole up with the little dimple.
Why don't you show them the dimple?
Yeah, the little dimple right there on the shifter shaft.
Show them the sharp edge of the screw.
Yeah.
Okay.
That little point there. So,
First gear.
yeah, I think first will probably get it there.
Here we go.
All right, well, yeah, I think we're there. Let me. And once I get this snug down,
Yeah.
I'm going to have you put it into neutral for me,
Okay.
and I'll pull it out here where I can get a wrench on it to tighten it.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, see, it pulled it right out there. All right, and I will go ahead and tighten this guy down now that I can get the wrench on it. All right, snug down. Go ahead and give it a try. Put it through all the gears. Feel pretty normal?
Yeah, it's hitting the spark plug when you go into 30.
Okay.
I think we're okay.
All right, sounds good. Well, there you have it. That's the coupler. Now you'll probably notice, if you're having trouble getting it in gear, that these bushings on either side, they're square. This guy and this guy over here, it's a square rubber bushing that slides into the metal cage. If there's excessive slop there, that's going to make it real hard to get it in gear. And there are also, if you follow the shaft, that shaft up toward the front of the bus, there's a tube that it runs inside of along there that also has bushings inside of it as well that can create slop. So it's a good idea to check those out as well. These are all fine. It's been gone through previously. I will say on this cage that the aftermarket cages, the metal's thinner, and it has some goofy little screw type deal instead of a pin that runs through. So what I like to do is I like to keep the original cage and just use the replacement rubber or urethane bushings, whatever your favorite flavor is, and try to keep as much of the original steel hardware in this configuration as possible. The aftermarket stuff's just not really all that great, but the bushings are fine. So, and that's the part that you really need to replace. So just, that's my personal preference, but I feel like it warrants some conversation.
What I'll do is that goes to a wire that comes across.
Yeah. Yeah, that's G and that's G there.
Okay. All right, so get G and G. All right.
Yeah.
And then
And I'm trying to remember what that G is. I believe
there's B and B.
Yeah, I think that's the charge indicator on the dash. I think is what that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what this connection here does. You have labeled G. It's supposed to be a blue wire, but they look kind of green once they've gotten dirty. That is basically just a signal for the dash to say, to tell you whether it's charging or not. But this is the voltage regulator up here. So that's what this plug is. It comes from the alternator straight over to the voltage regulator. It's got its 3 wires in there.
Okay.
So you just plug that guy together. It's super easy from down here. It's usually easier if you go in from the top, but we've got
take the tape off.
We've got a deck lid situation going on, so we'll just untape it here. It's definitely a good thing you did here, Buck, labeling everything. If you're not sure, you know exactly what's what. Only takes a second to throw some tape on it,
Yeah, and I don't know what these are for, and so I wanted to make sure I knew. I knew they went back together.
Yeah. And this was supposed to have had a white plastic insulator on it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Would it be wise to do like a heat shrink on it?
Well, heat shrink, or you could just tape it. I mean,
All right, hold on one second.
Meant to make sure you don't have exhaust gases building up inside the cooling tins.
That canister is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's all under pressure here, and they're pulling it out to run through that and cycling it back.
All right, now say, there, it's all taped up.
So that's taped up. Okay.
And why don't you tell us what this is?
Well, okay, you talking about this inline fuse holder here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this uses the bayonet style German fuse, same as up front. This is basically just an inline fuse holder.
Yeah. Do you know what it's for?
Yeah. And for whatever reason they decided to do it this way, I really don't understand why. I'm sure there's a method to the madness, but on some vehicles I've actually worked around it and come up with something.
What does it
do?
do?
Better. This is the power. This powers the reverse lights.
Oh, okay.
And what's weird about it, and of course it's protected with a fuse, which is good. It's a good thing to do. But what I think is odd about it is the way they decided to power it. It's actually powered off the same wire that runs power to the ignition coil. Now, that's the part that I never really understood, is the why behind that. Maybe somebody in the comments would.
Okay.
But the way that this works is that and there's a wire for the ignition somewhere in here. We haven't gotten to it yet. It feeds power to the 12-volt coil, to the ignition coil, to charge it. And these are the wires. Well, this wire specifically creates a short to ground, which causes the spark to leave the coil and go to the distributor.
Oh, cool.
So basically, this is just storing up power until it can create the high voltage spark.
Okay, so you had that wire was labeled F, right?
Yeah.
That's in Frank.
Yeah.
And do you know where F might be?
It should be in one of these harnesses along the way somewhere here. Let's see. That isn't it, is it?
Is it down here? All right, we'll find F. F is lying around.
But the F wire, the one that's missing currently, is the one that brings the power from the fuse panel up front to the coil to charge it. So, and it also subsequently is where this draws its power for the reverse lights from.
What are we going to do next? Doesn't it come through? In the little hole down there?
Yeah, it's going to come through
Okay,
there.
we'll get that.
Well, I'm trying to find the ignition wire.
Is that something we need to feed through, or it could be down below?
should have come in with. It should have come through with that stuff.
Well, could it be on the other side? There's an F in here somewhere.
Yeah, there's got to be.
I'm gonna turn the camera off.
Well,
Alright.
let's see what we got over here. What is that? Is that F? Yeah, that's F.
Oh.
Oh.
We found F.
Yeah.
Alright,
there it
F
is.
goes. That's like. So that strings across the engine then.
Yeah, so that's the ignition power there, and then, yeah, this is engine top, but what this is, you can tell by the color of the wire that I believe that's the
That
oil
goes down
pressure
here.
sending. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I didn't know. I have it on the video. That's so I couldn't put a piece of tape on the engine top, and that goes to the fan housing.
Yeah, so this would be the
And I'm not
heater.
gonna put the fan back on.
Yeah, that'd be the heater fan. It looks like it's got a little hot at one time. Some of these wires are melted together. So yeah, so that ignition wire comes in through that bundle there for the fan. So.
And the oil one is down in there.
Yeah.
And I'd have to watch the video backwards to find where. So you got F on the coil.
Looks like that wire's a little bit damaged.
Let's see. Why don't we tape it up?
It's already been spliced once. So, do we have a length of wire hanging around here anywhere?
We do. And we'll splice it again. Hold on.
Yeah. But we went ahead and cut it back to the slice here. And added this piece of wire on. Crimp a new connector onto it. Just to get rid of the junk. It had been repaired a couple of times already, so we're going to hook that up and get back to it. That makes
Okay,
sense.
so you got F on there.
Mm-hmm.
You got it spliced right there.
Yep, and it runs in just behind the distributor there.
Okay. You can kinda,
It's a real easy spot to get to, right?
yeah. You can at least see it on the camera. All right, cool. Now what we're going to do.
I'm kind of looking at that double relay, thinking this is the next good spot to look at.
You want to explain what those do?
Um,
So H, why don't you do them one at a
Okay.
time so that people...
Well, the good thing is I don't think that you can get them mixed up because the plugs are Molex type. They're I wouldn't say impossible, but yeah.
Well, show them H to your left. That way, yeah, and see like the end of them so they can compare the ends and see.
Yeah, let's take a look here. We'll do H first.
Right. Let's set them side by side so they can see the pin arrangement. There you go.
Yeah, I gotta get this out of the way here.
So in your left hand is H.
Uh-huh.
In the middle is. I mean, what they look.
Yeah,
they look
they're
pretty
similar.
You
Yeah.
can't mix them up.
Yeah.
So the left H goes over there on the left, and then is that D in the middle?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's D there.
Okay.
So H and D.
And what are you plugging in? You know what that is for?
The double relay is part of the fuel injection system. Basically, this side takes all of the power from the wiring harness of the vehicle and then kind of distributes it to the fuel injection.
Okay.
You'll notice that for whatever reason, D-Jet, which was it's a Bosch product, but for whatever reason, the wiring harness is all white wires. Like there's no color code differentiation for any of it.
Oh, great. So it's confusing.
Yeah, so you kind of have to go from pin to pin on the connectors to figure out what goes where physically.
All right, so that's kind of a design flaw.
Yeah, well, there were quite a few companies doing things like that.
But it's 1978 design. I mean,
Yeah.
now you see like green with a white stripe, red with a white stripe, blue with a white stripe.
What's really funny is I have a friend who's got an International Scout Traveler,
Uh-huh.
and the entire wiring harness, all the wires are green.
Oh,
Same
yeah?
thing in the whole truck. Every wire is green. So it makes it a real challenge to track down what goes where.
Right. And this is D.
Yeah, this is D.
Going in
and
the D location.
the bump goes to the back.
Oh, okay. There's a bump. Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of a good way to tell.
Kind of alignment.
Yeah. Okay, so we got those. Now, the other thing, this is something you got to be really careful with, because you see those wires, how they all come out. This is 4 individual resistors. It's a resistor. These are ballast resistors for the fuel injectors. So if you don't have fuel injection, you can just skip this part.
You can leave the tape on.
Yeah. This one's got to come off.
So,
but just if you're messing with this, be sure to inspect to make sure, because these wires like to break off from the end of these resistors. So make sure those are intact.
so you're gonna plug that in real nice and careful, aren't you?
Yep. One-handed, really nice and carefully.
Two-handed.
There we go. And really, in my opinion, there should be some sort of strain relief in here. I don't know why they didn't do that, but that would prevent these from breaking.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody by now has come up with some ingenious way to fasten it to the firewall, keep those from moving around. But
I see. Is that a ground over there that has to go on one of the?
yeah, this guy right here. I've seen it attached to these. I've seen it attached to that.
Oh yeah, I think I think I got it off the top.
Yeah, it could really go just about anywhere, but
It's just a ground. All right,
Yeah.
well, I'll get a Phillips head.
okay. So you've got your throttle cable.
Did you string it through properly?
Yeah, it just comes through this grommet here.
Okay.
It runs into this barrel nut here.
Okay.
And that little bolt's what tightens it down. So you slip that guy through there. And these are the same ones they use on the carburetor for the Beetle, and also for the heater box connections. Same little barrel, so if you've misplaced it, it's something you can rob from somewhere else.
Oh, we don't condone theft, and
Well, no, but I mean, I'm saying if
kidding.
it's summertime and you need to unhook your heat to get home, you could steal one from there.
So you gotta tighten that.
Yeah. Let's tighten that guy. I think it's a 10 millimeter.
It's 8mm.
I usually just kind of sneak my hand back behind here to keep that from,
Slipping through or going forward.
well,
Keeping it taut.
keep it from turning like that.
You want me to go push on the accelerator, and it'd be kind of cool if I push on the accelerator and then you show it moving.
Sure.
You got the camera?
Yep. Go ahead and test it out there, bud. There you go. Yep. We got movement.
Sweet.
It's wild that this thing still has the EGR system.
What's that?
Well, you take that and I'll point to things.
Okay.
This is the EGR valve.
Hold on.
This guy right here. Yeah. That's the EGR valve.
What does that
If
stand
you
for?
noticed, exhaust gas recirculation. When you pulled on this throttle and you open this butterfly, it pulls that EGR open.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what that does is it pulls exhaust gases from the exhaust through this tube and back into the intake plenum. Of course, on mine, I've disabled that because we don't have vet testing here. But
What does it do?
it basically heats up your intake.
Oh, cool.
It's not really a good thing, but it's an emissions control thing.
All right, so I guess a fuel injection pod. Control here.
All right. Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
There.
This is one you definitely want to be careful with.
Yeah, that's a valuable.
Yeah, this little hook once that gets broken off of there, it's
Murder.
yeah, it's not fun.
Okay.
Then you've got zip ties to deal with. So you basically hook it through that little pin up top,
Okay.
and then once you've seen that it's hooked and that everything looks like it's good,
Lined up.
yeah, you move all the other things out of your way. You just kind of give it a jiggle until you see these little tabs down here click into place, which locks it. So that's good.
Okay. This is the fan. This is something we were not hooking up.
Yeah, so we're just gonna let that chill. It may be a good idea to like maybe zip tie it up here out of the way, but we'll worry about that once we get the box in place. Box meaning the air cleaner.
Oh no, I'll go get a zip tie.
Okay.
Stick the camera in the battery. Okay, and explain that you put a piece of steel down there.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
where the battery goes.
We got a piece of steel down there to kind of reinforce things.
And then
A little
show
bit.
how the red wire is the negative.
Yeah.
And this,
And one thing you want to pay attention to is, okay, this wire is red. You might think, oh, that's positive, but no. There's the bolt right there. It's the ground. So just, good rule of thumb, anything you're ever working on, ever, don't go by the color of the wires on the battery. Just, it takes a second. Look at what the wires are going to, and then decide, which is positive, which is negative. On a bus, the positive runs, it's usually black, and it runs along the frame and back to the starter. And,
squeeze it in there.
and of course that's the ground because it's attached to the body. So we're just going to cram this battery in.
Okay.
Alright, so it appears all the electrical's done, so I think we're going to move on to air hoses.
Okay.
We've got an assortment of hoses here, and it'll all make sense once we jump in. I guess a good place to start would be the decel valve.
The what?
The decel valve, which is this guy right here. It's a diaphragm that dumps extra vacuum when you let off the throttle. It kind of gives the engine a chance to catch up to itself with the sudden loss of flow through the engine. If this were to go bad or you didn't have one in place, basically once you opened the throttle and the engine got up to RPM, it would either slowly or not at all come back down, even with the butterfly closed. So you'd let off the gas and it would just continue to run at a higher RPM.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of an important piece.
Okay.
Just as a side note, because I've tried it before without it. All right.
You gonna put the airbox in?
I think I want to start with the S boot here.
Okay.
There should be a clamp for this.
It's up there.
Okay. Grab that.
Maybe here.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Phillips head.
Yeah.
There you go. Is it difficult to get on?
It can be kind of a pain.
Yeah, it looks like it's squeezed in,
Yeah.
just from its design.
That's why I like to kind of do the bottom first, because it helps you get the top aligned.
And the bottom is right under the throttle.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go up top.
Okay. Okay.
Got it on there?
Yep.
Okay. And there you plug it in that.
And this is the hose for the brake booster.
Say it again.
This is the hose for the brake booster. This is what supplies
Where does it
vacuum to the
go?
brakes. It slides onto this little T right under here. And it's kind of a stubborn spot to get to.
Oh, look at it.
But you recognize it by this check valve in there.
And then, there, you zip tied the fan wire up here so it's out of the way. We're not going to put the fan back on.
No.
Okay. And show the taped up little end. That goes down here.
Yeah.
So that's a rubber 90-degree that was split and somebody had taped it and I just put the tape back on. And go ahead and show folks where it connects. It's
Down in here and kind of a difficult spot to get to.
move your point it out with your finger.
This piece is called the auxiliary air regulator, and it helps with the idle stabilization.
Okay, you gonna put it in there?
And cold starting. I can't really see it, so I'm kind of going blind here, but
maybe you can get it from up top.
yeah, I think it's just a little tight because of
Yeah,
tape.
I can get it.
Okay.
It's
Let's try it from up top.
there. Okay, you can try it from up top. I'll get it from this side. Oh,
Yeah, let's. You want to film from up top too.
yeah, I'm gonna do that. Move this out of the way. So let me see. This might be a little. There it is. This is where we're gonna connect it. It goes right there. And I'll move the camera down a little bit better. Oh. The light went off. Let me change the battery in the camera.
Alright, so yeah, this little question mark shaped hard line kind of just stabs in here. The same T that supplies the vacuum for the brake booster. And then it just runs into the back of the decel valve here. There we go. Stabbing one in here. Alright, there you go. This goofy shaped guy right here goes from the decel valve, and this is what supplies it with vacuum from the intake here
To where?
to the other part of this Y connection.
Okay. And we gotta tighten it up with the hose clamp.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go over here.
Maybe a good cautionary tale.
What came off?
The vacuum hose for the
Here.
fuel pressure regulator.
Why don't you stick
This
the
guy here.
Take the camera and show it down there.
Okay. That's the center of the screen. There is the fuel pressure regulator, and the little vacuum hose.
Oh, move the camera so you can see me point at it.
Yeah, that guy right there.
Okay.
That hose came unhooked from that while we were in here goofing around. Yeah, so we just need to hook that back up.
I'm doing it blind. You.
All right, yeah. Switch me out here.
Okay.
All right. All right. So this little J-shaped hose, pretty big guy. He slides in through here, ties into the bottom port, the large port on the S boot, and then you stab the other end in here, the crankcase vent, and he's got a clamp there, so we're gonna get that all buttoned up. This pin here that's molded into the box, and there's a pin on the bottom, engage with these two holes.
Okay.
One's gonna rubber grommet I think they're both supposed to have a rubber grommet.
And then that part, or this part right here, connects with the top of the S.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna.
So we'll slide him in here.
Okay.
Put the back one in first. It's kind of hard to see. Alright.
Got that on?
Just take this little clip here, and latch him down.
Oh, okay. And then tighten up.
Yep.
Okay.
Tighten up the hose clamp.
So we're gonna tighten the hose clamp. Is there any electrical connection like
Yes,
this?
there's one, and I laid the wire back there already.
Oh.
I'll show that.
Okay. And how about this
Well,
one?
yeah, it's right here actually.
Okay.
That's the connector.
And where does that go?
It goes on the back side of the AFM, so you got to do that from the top.
Oh, okay. So go ahead and.
I'll show it. Let's show it from the top.
Okay.
It's right back here.
Why don't you, let me get it.
Yeah. Now we gotta go fishing for it.
Is it snug on something?
No, it just fell.
They're all.
There we go. All right. Just plug him in.
Okay.
There's a little wire clip that kind of holds it on there.
And then you just tighten that. And tighten that right there. And then it's time to hook up the battery, I think. All right.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna get the battery.
Alright, the way that the fuel injection system works on this, the pump only runs if there's air moving through the AFM. So what I've done is I've unconnected the S-boot.
What's the AFM?
This guy right here, this box.
Okay.
There's a little door inside that moves when there's air moving through it.
And what's AFM stand for?
Airflow meter.
Okay.
It's telling the engine how much air is moving through here, and it's adjusting to give it the proper amount of fuel for that amount of air.
And so with the screwdriver,
So with the screwdriver, I'm actually moving that little door inside there mechanically, manually moving it, telling it that there's air moving through here.
Why don't you do it so people can hear it?
So what that does is that's telling the fuel pump to
Prime.
Run. Yeah, to run. So we're priming it, kind of priming everything up.
Okay.
Trying to get some of the air out. And you probably can't hear it on film, but you can actually hear the air bubbles going through the return line and gurgling into the tank. Kind of neat. So we're going to do this for a while.
Okay. And then we turn the key and start her up.
Recording. Alright, go ahead and fire it up, Buck. Alright.
Alright. Come with me. There we go.